You're watching CTOM TV. Knowledge is power.
Mutations in polymerase E and D. Polymerase is something that copies DNA.
Okay.
It's involved in the DNA replication process.
All right.
So mutations in pol E and D will indicate a response to immunotherapy. And then there's the types of mutations. So basically, and specifically, the types of mutations that we look at here are what we call transversion mutations in two different genes. One's called KRAS and one's called P53.
Okay.
KRAS is a well-known oncogene, and P53 is considered the guardian of the genome. It's a tumor suppressor. It's one of the first tumor suppressors ever identified, and P53 mutations are found in most cancers.
Oh, okay. So pretty common.
Yeah.
And what's a transversion then?
So basically, we have these two types of mutations in DNA. One is called a transition. The other is called a transversion.
Okay.
So a transition is where you have so basically we have two different types of DNA molecules. They're called two-ring purines or one-ring pyrimidines. And so the A's and the G's are two-ring purines, and the C's and the T's are the one-ring pyrimidines. So normally you get an A binding with a T and a G binding with a C. So those are normal binding processes. So what happens is when you replace that one base pair with the same type, so if you replace a purine with a purine, then you have what's called a transition mutation.
Okay.
And that's because, they're the same size. You're replacing a two-ring DNA molecule with another two-ring DNA molecule.
Okay.
Or if you replace a one-ring molecule with a one-ring molecule, so one pyrimidine, either a C or a T, with either a C or T, then that's going to be what's called a transition mutation.
Okay.
And so they involve bases of similar shape.
Got it.
So it's either replacing a one ring with another one ring or replacing a two ring with another two ring.
Okay.
A transversion is the opposite. And that occurs when you interchange either a one ring, so purine, with a two ring pyrimidine.
Okay.
And so they basically create dissimilar shapes.
Right.
So you're getting a one ring being replaced by a two ring, or a two ring being replaced by a one ring.
So things are going sideways.
Exactly. So it changes the actual shape of the DNA at the mutation. So rather than having a similar shape, it actually makes it bigger and stand out more. And so these transversion mutations are not well recognized by the DNA polymerases and the different processes of DNA repair.
Because they're odd.
Because they're odd shaped and they're bigger. And so transition mutations are conserved. They're what we consider the components of evolution.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so they're the ones that create new gene functions. They don't mess up the DNA in the same way as a transversion. And they're easily repaired.
Right.
I have to say that these mutations are a consequence of DNA repair. So it's the DNA repair process that causes these mutations.
The transversion?
Yes, transversions and transitions.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So DNA repair gone a little sideways.
Yes.
Or a lot sideways, depending.
Yes, it's just trying to fix things up. It's patching things up.
All right.
So transversions are common to cancers. And so what we now know, and what we're starting to see is that the more transversions you have, the more likely you're going to respond to immunotherapy, because there's more of that altered DNA.
All right. I'm still not quite, everyone else at home probably gets this, but connect the dots for me one more time. Why am I going to get more?
Well, because if you have these transversions, your DNA is going to look a lot different than your normal cell DNA.
Okay.
So it's easier for the immune system to recognize these problems.
Okay.
It's saying, look, there's a lot of things messed up. There's a lot of transversion. You've replaced a pyrimidine with a purine or a purine with a pyrimidine, and the DNA looks different.
So, but what does that mean, more cancer?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean.
Okay, well, just say what you said again about the transversions mean more cancer, or
No, transversions are more common in cancer.
more common in
They're
cancer.
a mutation that is specific to cancer.
Oh,
Whereas
thank you.
transition is more specific to evolution.
Right, got it. Yeah, that part made sense to me. The like with like being evolved in evolution.
Exactly.
Okay, but if I have the transversion, okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
I'm going to.
The transition's a conserve. And as a consequence, the DNA looks the same.
Okay.
Whereas transversions are not. So
Right.
transversions are something that we like to look at too. We see a lot of transversions in a tumor DNA sequencing assay.
Mm-hmm.
It gives us an indication that this person may respond even if they don't have any of the other indicators to response.
Interesting.
And not a lot of people do this.
Right. Yes. Well, that's the one thing about you and your team, really, is you're
really
always
do focus on the
years
details
ahead.
of DNA repair and so on.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many of these problems that you have worked out, again, years ahead
Spent a lot of time
of
on
many
this.
others because of the type of approach you bring.
Thank you for watching Ketome TV. Subscribe below and stay informed.